All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rooted Asian American Youth Ministry Roundtable. My name is Huey, and I get to be your host today. And today we're going to have an honest conversation about the dark night of the soul. Those seasons when God feels distant, when we feel like joy of the Lord and of ministry feels like it's sapped out of us. It's hard to get out of bed. It's hard to look forward to things. Those seasons when our prayers feel like they're not going anywhere. It's just bouncing off the ceiling. And yet we still have to show up and serve and lead and love. So it's going to be an honest conversation, or a hard conversation. I'm really looking forward to it. I am joined by two dear friends, two co-laborers with me in the trenches. They have sown seeds of the gospel to the next generation for decades. And I'm super grateful for them and really honored to know these brothers. And I'll have them introduce themselves. So Terrence and Justin, tell us where you're from, where you're serving currently, and just to start off on a lighter note, why do you love the Asian American Youth Ministry or Family Ministry? Okay, so Terrence, I'll have you go first.
All right. I'm Terrence Shea. I'm the family pastor at First Chinese Baptist Church of Walnuts. I am here in the Los Angeles area, and I'm starting year 10 here. I got 3 kids of my own, college, high school, and middle school. And so that would be my reason of loving Asian American Youth Ministry, is to see the next generation, including my own kids, come to know and to love Christ. And this is not just something that we take for granted and assume that it happens if we just bring them to church. It calls for us to be involved and engaged. And certainly for the 3 of us, we have the privilege of also vocationally being connected and committed as the Lord provides.
Love that, Terrence. And Terrence, show off your shirt, man.
Yeah, man. Back to back, baby. Let's go.
Oh my goodness.
Love it, love it. All right, Justin.
What's going on, everybody? Justin Wong here in Houston, Texas. I have been with the student and family ministries for a good 25 something years now. Finished a post about a year ago, 17 years on staff. But now I'm currently serving as a part-time interim college and young adults pastor at Sugar Creek Baptist Church here in Sugar Land. So it's been a fun season, actually, an oasis in the middle of a wilderness journey, if you want to say that. And so, why do I love Asian American Youth Ministry? I mean, that's just kind of my context that I was born into. So I'm a second-generation pastor. We came out of the Asian American ministry. And so naturally it was part of my DNA, but then also just kind of having a heart for kind of our culture, but also just as the generations went through, man, just be able to see the differences between first, second, third gen, seeing the needs, but also seeing the potential and the trajectory of ministry there.
Love that. Thank you, brothers, for being here today. And before we dive into this conversation, I'm just going to give a shout out. This episode and even the following one was actually inspired by our dear friend and even our mentor, our fearless leader,
Our Yoda.
Danny Kwon, his wife, Monica Kim. Hold your book up. They recently came out with this book, Teenagers and Mental Health, a handbook for parents, pastors, and youth leaders. I think this is going to be a huge resource to youth and family ministries, especially in the Asian American context, but not limited to Asian American context going forward. We are so super thankful for both Danny and Monica. They serve Rooted really well, and they're shepherding us, those of us who are in the trenches from afar. So shout out to Danny and Monica.
And we'll put the link in the show notes because we just realized we're on a podcast, and so you're not gonna be able to see any of this.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Hopefully, but maybe it'll make it to the video clip. Maybe.
Oh man,
Yeah, it makes me wish I had a hat on for today, guys, because you guys are both representing.
Sorry, you got the jersey. It's all right.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Let's begin, man. This is a hard but good conversation to have. So, dark night of the soul. When you guys hear that, what comes to mind for you? and share just a little bit about if you've gone through a season where God felt silent or distant in your personal life and in ministry, and what did that actually look like for you? Maybe Justin, if you don't mind kicking us off with that.
Yeah, I mean, I learned about this phrase from a pastor teacher kind of here in the Texas area. And he used it, and I remember thinking, I have never heard of a preacher on stage actually talk about this. And so one, it was like, what in the world? I didn't know you can be this vulnerable. And so just before this episode, I nerded out. I was trying to track down this phrase because I was like, well, is this unique to him? But apparently it's from the 1500s. St. John of the Cross, he kind of uses this in a poem. And so, but going back, I'm like, it makes sense. I think for me personally, y'all too know this. And my story is, working with my home church about a year ago. It was probably the hardest exit that we did not anticipate, but it happened. And that kind of event in itself spawned a whole different range of emotions. And so it wasn't just the dark night, it was the dark month. If anything, it was a dark year. And I would say for some of you guys who are listening, it's still continuing for me. And I don't think it's as easy as recognizing one moment. And sometimes it's a season. And so when we're talking about dark nights of the souls, it could just be a moment in time. But a lot of us, man, we're going through seasons of darkness. And it's not that I don't trust and love the Lord. Contrary to that, for sure I do. But it's just like, man, this is really, really, really hard. So
Yeah.
we can go in more specifics after after a little bit.
Yeah. But thanks, Justin. And I just want to just point out, like, I mean, you invited us into that journey a little bit. We're all different, scattered different parts of the country, but in the times that we met and talked, you invited us into that journey, and I just want to tell you that it was an honor just to be prayerful for you and your family through that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I told the two of you guys, and I told the rest of the Rooted group, I just said, because people ask, how in the world did you survive those moments? And I said, I think the Lord put together a base, a community like you guys way before this thing even happened. And so I think he knew to set this kind of community up so that when it did happen, it didn't crush us. We were able to not only talk, was like, hey, I think this is about to happen, or something's weird. Can y'all pray for us? And then when it did happen, I wasn't just floating around in the wind. I came straight to you guys, honestly, because the Lord saw it fit to put you guys way before these things even happened. And so maybe that's an encouragement for some of you guys listening. It's, the Lord does put certain things together prior to seasons of darkness sometimes too.
Amen, man. Terrence, how about you?
For me, I think a season when this happened was probably almost a decade ago, and it involves some changes as it is related to it. But it's this weird thing of sometimes, you hear this phrase and you think, oh, wow, man, it must be, something that you don't believe anymore, or it must be, some kind of frustration or hardship in ministry. It's not always the case. I felt like theology wasn't the issue when you're experiencing dark night of the soul. You know the answers. You know who God is. You know that the Bible tells the truth, and you know that the Holy Spirit is working. You know these things. And certainly in ministry, you're busy and you're doing a variety of things. You are in the various places and lives that God has placed you in. But it is kind of a sense of a spiritual dryness, of a lack of clarity, a lack of joy, where even being faithful in serving God and in representing and shepherding in your congregation. There's just something that, reminds us, man, our works just cannot satisfy. It just is not enough. Something's missing. And it had me searching for answers. And ultimately in that season, it did lead to bigger picture decisions, because I think there was a discernment and a wisdom that came from really seeking God. And there was a peace that come from having to make hard decisions. But man, that dark night of the soul is real for sure. I mean, it's God dealing with us in a way that we don't want sometimes, and we don't feel comfortable going through, but he is faithful and present still.
We are thrilled to announce Rooted's new book with New Growth Press, The Jesus I Wish I Knew in High School, Asian American Edition. Being a teenager is itself an overwhelming experience, but the struggles unique to Asian American teenagers can often lead them to wonder if anyone truly knows what they're going through. In this book, 12 authors come alongside Asian American students to share their own high school experiences, helping students to see how Jesus makes a difference in our unique struggles. Jesus sees them and knows them fully. These testimonies of growing up Asian American include struggles with belonging, performance pressure, fear of failure, living in an honor shame culture, eating disorders, sexual assault, and adoption. The writers now walk faithfully with Jesus in their ethnic and cultural distinctions. These stories lift up the Asian American experience with dignity, offering representation and belonging. We hope you'll read this book and share it with the Asian American teenagers in your home or church.
Hey, so can we like throw some definitions real quick? I mean, because I think right now some listeners, even myself, I'm going, well, is Dark Night of the Soul, when he uses phrase, is it like, the Lord's discipline? Is it just a hard moment in life? What distinguishes kind of moments from what the three of us, are talking about as the Dark Night of the Soul? Like what comes to mind? Like what is it for you guys, or what is it not?
Well, and also like related to that question is maybe we can give some like adjectives or feeling words so that people can kind of grab onto
Yeah.
what we're talking about when we're talking about the dark night of the soul. I mean, just so that people can kind of identify. And I think it'll be just good for us to just name some of these things too, right?
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, you guys go first. What? Yeah, just answer that question.
I I think when I was trying to distinguish between, like just feelings and just moments, to actually like putting some words with the Dark Night of the Soul, for me, I think it was a prolonged season, or moment of doubt and dryness. And I couldn't really trace it necessarily to a decision or an action that I didn't necessarily. I think it was like, looking back, I'm going, okay, I could have seen some things, but it was just kind of, what's happening? Why am I in this spot? I feel like there's a distance between me and the Lord, and I couldn't really trace it necessarily to, like, I wasn't living in sin necessarily. There was no, you know, objective thing that I can point to. It's just something's happening with my soul and my relationship with the Lord, and I can't put my finger on it. Was that the same with you guys?
Yeah, and I think what I love that, and what I would add to it is sometimes it's accompanied by a physiological response.
Mm.
So, like, I mean, let's just name it, right? Like panic attack,
Yeah.
like shortness of breath, when you feel like you're losing a sense of feeling in your arms or legs, or it's hard to catch your breath, right? I think those physiological responses may help you become aware or make you alert to something else is happening. And like you said, Justin, you can't really put a finger on one specific thing. You're kind of a little bit disoriented, and you're trying to kind of figure it out as it's sort of unfolding.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely at times, there's fatigue. There's almost like symptoms of like depression on some parts, and something that really hit me, that I was going through something unique and special, was when I was coming home, from church after a normal workday, doing things that I love doing things that I've been doing for years. My wife could see it on my face. There's something different about how I even walk through the doors into the home, that there was just something, whether it's I'm kind of carrying myself, whether it's this sense of just looking overwhelmed, even though I'm not trying to, put on a face, or she saw it, and it was not something I could help. It was just something that I was feeling, and something that carried with me for a season.
Yeah. Yeah. Feeling of dread, fear. Those are some things that come to mind. But it's kind of like, again, what you were talking about, Justin, is you don't really know like how you ended up there.
Yeah.
It's a mystery. So, um, I want to get to kind of this question, and in sort of related to this is, what unique pressures do you think Asian American youth leaders and workers face that might push us toward this kind of, dark night of the soul?
Yeah.
And
No.
what do you think?
Terrence, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can. I mean, some things that come to mind is certainly there are generational differences between a first gen immigrant generation versus maybe a second, third gen Asian American generation. The kind of the expectation of verbalizing weakness and hardship, maybe kind of keeping it down, not showing, something that leaders, would be questioned by, or congregation are questioned the leaders by, not being overly emotional, just kind of powering through. And it's not so much that you can't have emotions. People have emotions, but it's not usually oftentimes raised in a more public setting or in a more um, honest, kind of talking about it, processing through it. It's um, it's just not in the dynamic sometimes of how our churches are staffed.
Mhm.
How real can we get on this podcast? Because I got a lot to answer.
It's all you, man. It's all
All
you.
right. So
We gotta
my
help our people.
and my some of my and I didn't realize this till afterwards, but I think some of my frustrations was I'd never saw it modeled, right?
Mm,
Like from my pastors, from those who I would look up to, those who I would entrust to shepherd us. And again, this is not all pastors. This is not me calling out specifics. I just in an Asian American culture, it's just not modeled from the top. Like, how often do you see somebody at the pulpit or at the front of the room weeping and crying and just asking for help? I could probably think of one, maybe two, like that's just not a thing. And even now, right? Like, I think we can use the words, we can talk about mental health, we can talk about the dark night of the soul, but I go, unless it's modeled from the top, like it's just words, And I just said how I think subconsciously or even implicitly, it just shows like, hey, those who are leading, maybe they're going through some stuff, maybe they use illustrations, but I just want some vulnerability sometimes, I don't want it all. I don't need it every single sermon necessarily, but just to be like, hey, I want to know that my leaders are actually going through the same stuff that everyone's going through. I'm like, you can't say that no one's going through this. And so, just for an anecdotal story, I remembered it was year 15 or 16 and I was exhausted, right? I was coming out of COVID ministry, doing all this type of stuff. I remember preaching, and I think towards the end of the sermon, I just was trying to be honest. And I was like, hey, I'm burnt out, guys. And I think I broke down on the pulpit, not because I was trying to act or whatever, but I just remember doing that. And I had two responses immediately from the people afterwards. One group was like, hey, let's just pray for you right now. What do you need? And they just kind of came around. And then I remember the second group, they were like chastising me for like, hey, we don't show that type of stuff on stage. That's for something else. And I was like, I couldn't control it. It was not like I was planning on it or manipulating you guys. And so I just realized, hey, there's a couple of dynamics that's happening in the background of Asian American churches, maybe all churches, but for me that was a telling moment for me.
And I think there's what both of you guys are saying. There is some connection and relationship, right? Because, we're saying, very rarely has that sense of vulnerability and openness modeled to us. But this is a generational thing, really, because
mhm,
most of our senior pastors who are Asian American, first gen immigrant, pastors, most likely it was not modeled for them as well.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
And I remember, like, in the younger years, I resented that so much. And yet as I'm kind of getting older and older, I there's a lot of compassion, compassion without, excusing some of the ways that they might have wounded us or hurt us, without excusing that. But there's a level of understanding and compassion, right?
100%.
Yeah. And so, we've talked about this sort of, you know, um, not showing weakness, right? And if our senior elders are not modeling this for us, then in some ways we feel like we have to kind of keep it in and hold it in. But you know, and that kind of leaves us feeling like it's so hard to name our pain, name our stuff, name the things that we're navigating, the emotions that we're struggling with. I mean, in seasons like that, how do we still move through it and not just try to survive, right? What helped you and what sustained you in those seasons? If you guys could think of a few practical things, maybe.
Man, it's so important for pastors and practitioners to have friends. I don't take that lightly at all. It almost sounds like, oh yeah, it's good to have friends, of course. But really, we need to open ourselves up and our lives up to those that may not necessarily understand what we're going through, but because of something that God is doing, that there's a like-mindedness, there's a care, there's an opportunity for us to share candidly and also just to be prayed for and to be cared for. That doesn't mean that we have to have that type of relationship with everybody. And that's where, the sermon comes from, how we maybe teach or preach from the pulpit. Certainly, I get that concern. But man, we need a few people. And we need a few people, not just during the bad days, but during those good days, building on those relationships so that when the bad days come, then, they could be there for us and we could be there for them. And we're able to bear each other's burdens. I just think that that's so key that sometimes we say that, due to ministry, we're too busy to have relationships. We're too busy to make time for people. But at the end, we weren't wired, to go through life alone.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think in those moments, I think our theology has to kind of stay steady, man. I think this is why, there's so many wind and waves of doctrine that at that moment are trying to kind of whisper to us, hey, it's your fault, or God doesn't love you, or hey, you need to do more. And I think this is where we realize in the dark night of the soul, like the Lord is still sovereign over these things. And if you understand it as children of the King, these are almost God initiated seasons where he allows things to happen to prune and to sanctify our journey. And it's not going to feel good, but what we feel as destructive, he's actually purifying, right? This is the story of Joseph. This is the story that Paul continues to tell about how he's trying to sanctify him in these moments of pain. And James says, consider it joy, my brothers, when you face trials and temptations and tribulations of all kinds. And so this is where you have to root yourself in the gospel and you have to preach to yourself because, man, like it's so easy to kind of look inward, right? And blame or feel like you're in despair or to blame outside. And I think it's kind of a centering piece, even if it's hard just to kind of preach to yourself. What do I know about the cross? What do I know about who the character of the Lord is? How do I understand about the new heavens and new earth? I think this is where our theology must shine forth. And again, like Terrence says, you need people. I remember I needed people to remind me of the gospel. And it's as simple as that. Just remind me that he is as good as we know him to be.
Are you noticing more teenagers in your life struggling with stress, anxiety, or depression? You're not imagining it. With political division, school violence, and the accelerator of nonstop social media pressures, today's teenagers are facing challenges unlike any generation before them. All of us at Rooted want to introduce you to an important new book, Teenagers and Mental Health, a handbook for parents, pastors, and youth leaders by psychologist and biblical counselor Monica Kim and veteran youth pastor Danny Kwon, published by our friends at New Growth Press. This comprehensive, gospel-centered guide helps parents, pastors, youth leaders, and other caregivers better understand the mental health challenges so many teenagers are facing today. The authors show you how to spot signs that a teenager is having trouble so that you can reach out to offer help. Drawing from decades of experience, Monica and Danny offer practical tools and biblical insight for supporting struggling youth. Grab your copy using the link on our website and grow in gospel equipping to support the teenagers in your life.
And as we all know, when we endure seasons like this, it's gonna have an impact on our particular ministries.
Mhm.
It's inevitable. And I know, especially for a lot of Asian Americans, that comes with a lot of shame and a lot of guilt.
Mm.
So let's talk a little bit just about how do we navigate the season with those that we are serving with.
Oh.
Like Justin, you kind of touched on this, in relationship to maybe our senior pastor or our lead pastor or our supervising elder or whoever it might be, like our leaders or whatnot. What's what's a good way, the best way that we can, communicate this to those that's going to be impacted by,
Yeah.
and inviting them to, come alongside us, as we because you know what, it's true. We didn't bring this upon ourselves.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like we didn't ask for it. We didn't see it coming a lot of times. So how do we communicate this in a way that will keep ministry sort of going while we're kind of navigating this? What do you guys think?
And I'll come from the, this is where I would desire, a healthy leadership structure or a team to be. Hopefully, when these things happen, I appreciate, Huey, you talk about you're not bringing this on yourself. Sometimes this comes out of, nowhere, right? Hopefully, as you're in ministry, as you're talking with your staff and your supervisors and your team, you're having a constant dialogue in discipleship, right? They kind of know the rhythms of your life. It's not like you're kind of hidden and then all of a sudden, hey, surprise, like I'm going through this. Hopefully, they know kind of, where you're at spiritually, where you're at with your family, where you're at with these type of things. And so it's kind of an open dialogue. And so, um, one practical advice would just be like have consistent check-ins with your staff and with your supervisors. And so when that time does come, they're able to kind of defend you or advocate for you to take some time off to get you what you need. But it's not like a, oh my gosh, where's this coming from? I thought everything was fine. So
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
A lot of times I think when we're going through this, it's easy for us to kind of eye for an eye, or at least feel that way, or kind of want to lash out. Recently, I been walking with a mentee that's been going through some hardship and definitely some dark night of the soul. And I just have to keep reminding him in a gentle, but then also clear way, that you don't have to do and speak and kind of lash out at others the way that maybe you feel that they have done unto you or they've wronged you. At the end, we're called to please God. We're called to serve God. We're called to glorify God. And if you have a clean conscience in your words and your actions, it's displaying that, then God will vindicate you. It's not about people seeing you differently or all of a sudden everyone, comes asking for forgiveness. I'm so sorry I did this, I said this, or man, I made it so hard for you. You can't expect that to happen. But ultimately, God is there and we want to continue to live for him and in our weakness, depend on him.
Yeah. Thank you guys. And I'll add this, and hopefully this might serve as an encouragement to the lead pastors or senior pastors, those that oversee or the youth leaders and workers. Um, so like I had a moment, a season like this not too long ago, and I just ended up not, I didn't have a plan for how to deal with it. So I just ended up just texting my senior pastor and just asking him to pray for me because it's been really hard. And this was Saturday afternoon. I was supposed to preach the next day, and in just a couple of short text exchanges after, he just basically informed our staff, "Hey, I'm gonna call an audible. Huey, you rest.
Mm.
Don't come to church tomorrow, and we'll make adjustments for somebody else to fill the pulpit, so that you can just take care of yourself, right?" And seriously, guys, like I felt a lot of shame and guilt. Like that was the immediate response, not gratitude. I felt shameful because
Mm.
I wasn't fulfilling my stuff, like my responsibilities, right? But um, after a while, I realized, after a little bit, I just realized, man, what a gift that I wasn't the one that asked for a day off. He, as my senior pastor, said, no, you're not coming in, you're taking the day off.
Yeah.
And just be human, right? And I just appreciate that so much. And I understand the impact when we don't show up to stuff and do our, I understand the impact that it could cause, right? But just to be valued in that way, just to be seen and heard, and to be okay to be human in that moment. Brothers, I feel like that's like really profoundly shaping me,
Absolutely.
right? So just a word of humble encouragement to those who are leading youth leaders and workers. We're doing the best that we can, but sometimes we fall into these seasons, and for you to come alongside us and go back for us I feel like will go such a long way, building trust and compassion and love for one another. So that would be sort of my word. Hey, we just got a few minutes left. So real quickly, Terrence, Justin, just one word of encouragement to any of our Asian American youth workers, leaders, those that are serving in Asian American contexts, who might be going through a dark night of the soul. How would you want to encourage these men and women?
Yeah, the one thing I say and just remind everyone, including myself, is that Jesus is there in your valley. Jesus is there in your hardship. He's not left you, and he is not going to forsake you because he's called you to your work of ministry. A lot of times when everything else seems to fall or everything we depend on seems to fail is actually when we see him and cling to him and desire him more. So the dark night of the soul ultimately is not a bad thing. The dark night of the soul, as it is in the Lord's hands, is something that refines and helps us to draw near to God. So be reminded of what it is that you teach and preach, but also know that it's true.
Yeah. Amen. And I would just piggyback off of what Terrence, you said. I think there's no wasted seasons, right? In any of this. And it could be the worst, and the Lord might graciously strip you from a lot of things, especially your identity markers, like he did with me. And in those moments, it's never fun. There's a lot of collateral damage sometimes in these moments. And yet the Lord is refining you. And I would say, like, I think he's equipping you so that later on down the line, he makes you a better minister. He makes you a better youth worker. I think he's making you have a testimony that only you can tell. And, we all have to go through it, but we have to be willing to let the word and the spirit to form us, right? Not to grow cold or bitter, but to see it as, okay, I trust the Lord that he is good. He's always been good. And so even these moments will be good, right? Eventually. And we look towards Christ because we identify with him more and more in his sufferings. And we trust that if he went to the cross and made it out, right, on the other side, and he stands in victory, and he's beckoning us home, or will take us one day, right? Like, that's our hope. It's a future glory that we get to remind ourselves, like, hey, even if the season ends, with death to everything, we can rise again with him, because he's real. He's alive.
Amen. Thank you guys so much. And again, if you are listening today and you find yourself in that space, the dark night of the soul season, please know that you are not alone. Please know that at least the three of us appreciates you, and we are rooting for you in every way. Thank you all for listening today to the Rooted Asian American Youth Ministry Roundtable. We look forward to the next time we get to chat. Until then, may the Lord bless you and keep you as we trust in the death and resurrection of Christ to transform our homes and our churches. Be sure to follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also find us on Instagram at The Rooted Ministry. Till next time, thank you all.